Shield families, parents, and youth. I am so glad to welcome you to week 12. It has been phenomenal. We are going to kick off our theme today. Your destiny is not delayed. And I have with me Sana and Nicola. I'm so happy to have you two with me. I know that they are going to bring you some motivation, inspiration, and everything that you need to get through the remainder of the pandemic. We don't know how much longer that will go, but one of the things that we do know is that we get to parent our children for 18 years tops. Some of us, we go on and on because we just love our children so much, and that's okay. I love that we've already had guest speakers who have adult children and could shed some wisdom for those of us who are raising our families who have little ones. So this is really exciting to talk about the destinies, because one thing about destinies, they have an appointment, right? And what we know is that it doesn't have to be delayed. And our job as a parent is to really unlock the promises that we have for our families. So let's go. Let's talk about it. I want to share a little bit about Sana. She is from Unashamed Inc. She has a 501c3 nonprofit organization that fosters emotional health in disadvantaged families that have experienced incarceration, foster care, and teen pregnancy. Through various initiatives, Unashamed is equipping families with the tools to dismantle unhealthy generational patterns and transition from surviving to thriving. Initiatives include, but are not limited to, virtual baby showers for teen mothers, holiday gift giving for youth of incarcerated parents, recovery bags for foster youth being removed from their homes, and blessing bags for women of domestic violence and incarceration. What an incredible work you're doing in the community, Sana, and I'm just so blessed to have you within my network.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm going to also introduce to us Nicola. She runs a program as well in the community called Our Children, Our Village. This organization assists single parents through resources, connections to community resources, and events, along with helping single parents and their children connect with other families in the community to find connection and support. Thank you so much for joining us, Nicola.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Let me tell you something. I posted this within the Facebook page that we started to do this work. And one of the things that I have been incredibly impressed by is the network of parents that I now have. And I tell you, I'm looking forward to how what you will share today will also help me and my family. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Nicola and for you to get us started today.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited. So your destiny is not delayed, and you'll see it on the screen, but there's more to that. It's not delayed because it's in development. At the age of 18, I found myself pregnant. And this next picture will show you a picture that I took just a couple of days after my son was born. So very early on in his life. And I was a student, I was a daughter, I was a sister, but now I found myself to have a new role of single mom. His father and I had parted ways shortly before he was born. Really, because at the end of the day, we could be better parents together if we were apart than we could have if we had stayed together. And that's not always an easy decision to make, but for us, it was the necessary decision. So I found myself having this young child and, having those experiences of raising him and just trying to keep, life together. And a few years into his life, he was just still in diapers. I really felt like God wanted me to, he gave me this vision for a nonprofit for single parents. I knew there was nothing like it in my area. I had never heard of a place where single parents to come and network together and find support. And I thought, okay, well, God has given me this vision. I have to go do this. And I had a friend, he was a single father as well. Our kids are about the same age. And so we had a lot of conversations about being single parents, and our kids played together when they were very little. And so I approached him about this idea, and he loved it. And so we got excited and thought we were going to go off and be a nonprofit. We had no idea what we were doing. We had no idea what that meant, but we knew that this was something that we wanted to pursue. And very early on, we realized we were in over our heads. We got scared of the technical paperwork. We didn't really know what this nonprofit would look like. God had given me the name for it so many years, ago. And we just got scared and we got overwhelmed, and we decided to put it on the back burner. And, we focused on raising our children, and some time had passed, and he and I lost contact, and we were just really busy trying to keep a roof over our children's head and keep food on the table. But this dream never went away. I pursued my undergraduate degree, and as my son got older, he was involved in a lot of different activities. And no matter what, that idea, that vision that God had given me always stayed with me. And it was something that I would always, kind of question and, get a little bit of information here and there. And it was just something that I always felt like there was something missing in my life that I really was supposed to do. Like I wasn't living out my destiny. Fast forward a little bit to 2016, I started to lead a group in my home for single parents through my church. And I knew at that point that this would be the launch pad to what would become the nonprofit, the vision that God had given me so many years before that. And in 2018, we met for almost 2 years. It was about 10 to 12 different single parents, all of their kids. We had a teen high school student come and help us look after the children so that we could really have conversations about our lives, where we found ourselves in terms of our relationships with people, with our children's other parents, the struggles of being a parent, all of those things. And we had the children in a different room. And I really felt like this was what I was supposed to be doing. I was gathering information, I was gathering experiences and understanding throughout my own life about being a single parent, and what resources were available or what resources weren't available. And in 2018, after an unexpected job loss, a health crisis, and a number of other circumstances, I really felt like God sat me down and said, if for whatever reason I called you home, what would be the one regret that you had? And immediately I knew that I didn't, if I had one regret, that it would be if I didn't launch my nonprofit, because I felt like that was something that had to be a part of my story, my legacy that I would leave for not just my son, but so many other single parents. And so at the end of 2018, I closed a home-based business that I had here in my home that I had at that point for 5 years, so that I could solely focus on working full-time in addition to building the nonprofit. In March of 2019, I approached, and I'd been having these conversations with people for a long, long time. And unknowingly, one of my friends knew of people who could help us, get some paperwork done. And a woman who I knew through kind of distant, conversation said, well, I want to be a part of this. And I was actually looking for board members. And I said, really? And she said, yeah, I just didn't know if you already, had people in mind for your board and those kinds of things. And I was like, oh, wow, this is starting to happen. Things are starting to move. And I had reconnected with the old friend from years prior that him and I were supposed to do this nonprofit. And I felt like if I'm going to do this now, I need him to be a part of that. because this was something that we had decided that we were going to pursue so many years ago, and we had to put it on the back burner. So I reached out to him and he said, yes, of course. And in March of 2019, we filed the paperwork and launched what is now Our Children, Our Village. And what I've realized now is that if I had, there's a picture of my son. He is now almost 22. This picture was taken just a couple of years ago. What I realize now is that if I had launched this nonprofit so many years ago, it probably would have failed. God gave me the vision. He planted the seed, but he did not give me all of the tools yet, because he needed to develop me as a leader, as a mom, as a friend, as a speaker, as a businesswoman. I needed to gain, experience as a parent, how to lead others, to lead their families. And so if I had done this years ago when I was so young, I didn't have the tools that I needed and the experiences that I needed in order to be able to do this not just well, but successfully, so that it would not fail for others. This needed to be something that I wanted to make sure was done right, was done in the right time, in the right season in my life. And my son, at the time, was an adult. He had graduated high school, and so I didn't have those time constraints of getting him off to school and different activities and those kinds of things, that I could now focus on this nonprofit. In addition to working full time, I could give it all that I had. And so we pursued that, and now we're coming up on March of this year will be 2 years since we launched the nonprofit. And I truly believe that I got the beta version in the early days of my son's life, and I would have no idea that when I birthed my son, I would birth the purpose of my life, but that it was in development, and it would take learning different things, going to school, connecting with different people, connecting with people in the community to find out what exactly it was that I was supposed to do and how it was supposed to get done. So when we hear that destiny is delayed and we think that our children are our reason for why we can't do something, or we have to put something off, maybe it's not that we put it off. Maybe it's that it needs to be cultivated and it needs to grow, and it's gonna come to fruition at a later time. So if you think that you are not where you're supposed to be, you're not doing the thing that you're supposed to be doing, ask yourself, do you need to start taking classes? Do you need to start connecting to the right people? Do you need to listen to a webinar or a podcast? Do you need to read some books on the topic in the area of the thing that you want to do? Do you need to stop associations with different people because maybe they're holding you back? All of that comes in the development phase of your destiny. So don't let your children be the reason why they're not the reason why you're being held back. Maybe they're the reason for why you should move forward. This is a picture of some of the things that have happened since we launched the nonprofit. Groups of women getting together with their children in another room and connecting together, and children who would have never met, who are being raised by single parents, get to meet, get to play together and just be kids. There has been so much that has happened since we launched our nonprofit. We've been able to feed people in the community, help parents, create vision boards for their lives. And it was all because I decided that the development of the vision that I was given was not delayed, but that it was under development. And it all started with that very first picture of me giving birth to my son and not holding myself back from the fact of I was a teen mom and my life was over. My life was not over. My life was just beginning. And little did I know that it was just the first step in a process that was going to grow me into where I am today. So I hope this inspires you. I hope my story gives you some light to keep going, to never give up, and to always remember that you are under development.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I had to get it together and get myself back on this screen. I appreciate it. I really enjoy that you are talking about what it takes to be patient while we prepare for our destinies and the things that we already have in mind for our futures and for our families. And I really do applaud your endurance and your ability to keep that in front of you and to inspire other parents and other mothers who are in a similar situation. And I'm sure that those mothers are eternally grateful for you helping them ignite what it is that they have in mind as well, which is why we do this work.
We do the work not for ourselves, but for others. You know, our story is not meant to be held inside of us. It's to share with others. And if another parent can look at my story and my life and say, you know what, she never gave up, she kept going. If it inspires somebody to and if it inspires them, it's going to inspire their children to also never give up. So I really feel like I've had the opportunity to not just sow into parents, but their children, sometimes directly and sometimes indirectly, because it's at the end of the day, it takes a village to raise a child. And that was the premise on which we started the nonprofit, was that it takes a village to raise a child. We want to help you build that village and strengthen it.
Absolutely. For sure. This is passion work and heart work. And a lot of times our work comes out of our deepest pain. So those things that we have to deal with and suffer through, oftentimes it develops into such meaningful work throughout our entire lives. So I agree with that. I want to turn it over to Sana so that you can share more about your story and connect with our families who are listening in.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor to be able to share my story with you all on today. So where do I start? Let's start at the beginning. Me personally, I was a foster child. I was placed into foster care at the very young age of 4 years old, and I have a twin brother. We were placed in foster care together because our birth mother was incarcerated off and on, and she was severely addicted to drugs. And so during that time, I was sold for drugs. My mother sold me to be able to feed her drug habit. And so I was sexually abused by a lot of men, physically abused, and at a very young age even developed an STD because of the sexual abuse. And so as I began to grow up, I always felt like I was different. I felt like, first off, I felt like I wasn't alone. I didn't exactly know why I felt like I wasn't alone, but I felt like the trials that I endured, I wasn't by myself enduring them. And then the other part of that is that I just felt different. I always felt like there was something different about me that I couldn't quite put my finger on. And so as I began to grow, some of my characteristics began to really develop. And I realized that I had a heart for people, and I wanted to be able to really help and serve people. But there was a part of me that was very ashamed of who I was. I was ashamed of what I had endured, and ultimately ashamed of my story. And so even, I ended up getting married, and all these great things were happening. And people will often tell you that, when you get married and when you join a church and you begin to really know Christ, that, you get healed. And that didn't happen for me right away. I was just really broken in the church, hiding my story of who I was. And so eventually the Lord really began to deal with me. So clearly, I hope y'all know this story is going to really be about God, not about me. And he began to deal with me, and he began to deal with my broken pieces. And he began to really heal me from the inside out, so that I was no longer ashamed of the things that I had went through. I was no longer ashamed of being molested, sexually abused, a teen mother, having a birth mother who was addicted to drugs and eventually passed away from AIDS. He began to really deal with me. And when he was done really, really taking me on this journey, which was about 6 years of a lot of tears and a lot of falling on my face to really cry out for him, he began to start to reveal pieces of my destiny to me, pieces of my purpose to me. And so he needed me to be healed so that I could boldly begin to go out, accept who I was, and tell others my story. And so as I began to tell others my story, I felt like my telling wasn't enough. I wanted to be able to serve people as well. I wanted to be able to put my hands on people and for them to physically see the manifestation of what the Lord had done in my life. And so he gave me the vision of Unashamed. Unashamed, really, before it became a real nonprofit, it was just me being moved by what the Lord told me to do. He told me to go out there, create these recovery bags for foster youth, hand them out. And so I did. He told me to have these baby showers for teen moms who were struggling and really considering abortion and decided not to. And so he told me to go out and support them. And so I began to do it. And then eventually that turned into a real nonprofit organization, right? And so I was so blessed to be able to have that. But in the midst of that, there was something that I had on my heart. I had a desire of my own that I really needed the Lord to do for me. I had a destiny that I wanted to see come to fruition. And for me, it was to actually meet my birth family. I had never knew who my birth father was. On my birth certificate, it didn't say his name. I knew nothing about him, but I knew that I didn't fit in with my birth mother. I didn't fit in with that family. I didn't know where I really belonged. In the honesty of it, I was in an identity crisis and I was searching to kind of know who I was, right? I felt like serving was what I was called to do, but I didn't see people that I came from doing that. They didn't have that heart. And so I kept questioning the Lord, like, what is it that you are calling me to do? Could you please show me where I come from? And so I went on this long journey. It was 10 years that I began to search for my father, right? It was this desire that it almost became an idol to me because I desired it so bad. I just wanted to know where I came from. I felt like if I just found this family that I would fit in. And so as the years would go on, I kept hitting these brick walls and people began to tell me I should stop searching. And they kept telling me that, all of the money I was spending was in vain and I was never gonna find him. And I started to get discouraged and I started to question God. And I would say things like, God, I've been serving you. I've been serving your people. I've been doing all the things that you've called me to do. And yet you have not given me this one desire of my heart. And so I started to really, really, really question him. And I started to say, well, maybe this is not going to happen for me. Maybe, this is going to be my Paul story. This is going to be my thorn in my side that I'm going to continue to have to live with and never know where I come from. And so in 2020, I really started to get discouraged and I started to start getting myself comfortable with me never finding my family. God, this is not going to happen. So let me just stop. Let me prepare myself for this never coming to fruition. And one day in October, the Lord said to me, I need you to be obedient, right? And he showed me this vision. I was in the shower and I literally had a vision of me meeting my birth father in 2021. I could see it clearly. I was at an event and I introduced my father to the people who were at the event. And I could literally feel the embrace of my father during this vision. And I began to praise God in the shower for what I knew was going to come. I knew it. It was like the Lord was saying, daughter, I'm not done yet. Don't get so discouraged yet. I'm not done. And so I began to praise God for that, what I knew what was coming. And I even recorded it. I did a voice recording right after I got out of the shower because I wanted to have a witness for when God did it, that people, the naysayers, the people who told me to stop, to halt, they could see what the Lord had done in my life, right? And so, we get to the end of 2020 and I'm saying, well, it'll happen when it happens, right? I had this vision of 2021, so I'll just wait for 2021. And then on December 31st, 2020, the Lord gave me the desire of my heart, literally out of nowhere. Literally out of nowhere. The morning of New Year's Eve, I got a phone call from a gentleman who said, I am your father's uncle. And in that moment, my life totally changed. What I thought I was never going to see, the Lord gave it to me. He dropped it right in my lap. And what he said to me is, I am giving this to you because you have waited well. In the midst of waiting for your destiny, in the midst of waiting for the promise, you waited well. What does that look like? Even when I was discouraged, even when I thought that the Lord had forgotten about me, I was still serving him. I was still serving his people. I was still moving in the things that he told me to do. I was discouraged, but I didn't allow that to overtake me, right? I didn't allow it to stop me from believing in what could be. He said, daughter, you have waited well. And because you have waited well, I'm going to give you the desires of your heart. But I also want you to know that I need you to make room, make space, because there's so much more that I have for you. So I need you to start taking that burden off of your mind. I'm giving this to you. There's so much more that I have for you. And so I want to encourage the parents today, right? I was a teen mom. I was sexually abused. I was in and out of bad relationships that didn't mean me well, that didn't serve me well. And even through all of that, God still did not say that I was disqualified from receiving a destiny that I could walk into. So I want to encourage you, no matter where you've come from, no matter what people tell you, people will always tell you to stop believing in God because their faith in God is not as big as it should be. I want to encourage you to believe God, believe big, give yourself permission to dream, no matter where you come from, no matter what you think you deserve or don't deserve. Give yourself permission to dream and learn to wait well. Your obedience is in the way in which you choose to wait. Wait well. Wait on your face. Wait in your word. Do what you got to do for your children. Keep moving forward in all things that you do. But despite everything, wait well.
Now, Sana, I didn't want to come off of mute or add myself to this video right now because you were on a roll. I wanted to keep listening.
I'm trying to be obedient to my time.
Okay. Listen, so much strength in your words. Someone wanted to let you know that your story is amazing.
Thank you.
It absolutely is. So much that we can learn that despite of everything, we can still have it all.
Yes.
You know, your message to wait well. I'm taking that one with me. That I might need to change the theme. From your destiny is not delayed to wait well.
Wait well.
And make room.
Yeah.
And
Such
make
a powerful
room.
word. Yes. So what I normally do is I go into a little bit of Q&A. So if you're listening out there on Facebook and you have questions for our guest speakers today, please do go ahead and put your questions in the comments so that I can raise them up as we talk a little bit more about who we are and share more of ourselves as mothers and mompreneurs to those of you who are listening today. And Nicola, I really just want to start with your story. And it's interesting that similarly to many of our guest speakers, your son inspired you. And I cannot even explain how much that is a common thread for us, especially thinking about our Black boys, just that moment and what that means, holding our sons for the first time and wanting it all in this life for them and not wanting anything to deter them from their futures. And I have a special place in my heart for making sure that Black boys are able to grow into the strong Black males that they need to be, especially in their families. So I wanted to ask you, with your son, what is one of your proudest moments with him as a mother?
Ooh, it's so hard to limit that one moment. As a single mom, I always felt like the finish line was him crossing the graduation line. But it started way before that. My son was raised to look at people as equals and to not see people for their disabilities or the color of their skin. And I remember I was teaching at the time. I've been in education for about 13 years now, and and at the time I was teaching elementary education. And his teacher came to me and she says, "I need to have a conversation with you about your son." I got that look of, oh gosh, when your coworker has to come to you and tell you that your child just had it out today. And she said, no, it's actually good. There was another child in the classroom with special needs, and he was having, a moment. He was having a little bit of a tough moment, and the other kids started to pick on him a little bit. And my son jumped right in and said, no, leave him alone. He's not bothering you, and went and sat next to the kid while they were doing whatever the assignment was. And the teacher said, she goes, myself and my assistant saw this happening, and we felt like we didn't need to say anything else about it because your son had already taken care of. And she goes, as a mom, you would have been proud. And for me, it's knowing that my child can do something right for other people, even when I'm not around. He can still say, you know what, my mom raised me better than that. And I think what really came full circle for me is he had a young lady that he knew shortly after we launched the nonprofit, and she became a teen mom herself, and she's going through all this stuff, and he knew what it was like to be raised by a teen mom. So he felt like he could, be friends with her and give her some advice. And it just got to the point where he was like, I don't know about this stuff. Call my mom. She knows. And so for him to refer a single parent to our organization really felt like it really did come full circle in that moment. And I don't even know if he understood the gravity of that single act of, you know what, I don't know the answer to this because I haven't, I was raised by a single mom, but I don't know what it's like to be a single parent. And this young lady reached out to me, and very quickly I was able to see what we were able to do to assist her to get on the right track and to be able to have a life for her and her son. And so for me, letting it all come full circle was a really proud moment for me to say, you know what, I must be doing something right when my son can say, I don't know, but I know somebody who does know. And it just means that I was living in my purpose, and that everything I went through came to fruition in that moment.
That is such a proud moment for sure. And your son is your biggest fan, it, right?
he is my biggest fan. And people tell, when people ask me, about him, I'm like, make me 6'4", give me like a little curly afro. And that's my son. He is the spit image of me. We have served in ministry together and in the community for so long that it's almost second nature when I see him serving, that it's like, this is what he has always done, because this is what I've always showed him, to serve others. And so I'm really, grateful that even if I didn't say it, he saw it, he learned it, and he's living it in his own life.
Kudos to you for being such an excellent example. I think it's always great to see it in action with our young people, and to see it while they are yet still young. Seeing them give back in that way will result in some incredible adults and young men in the world as well. So he'll always have a heart for people who are struggling or need help. And one of the things that he demonstrated to you is being extremely resourceful, which is a very important quality to have as well, to realize that I don't have all of the answers, but I do know someone who does.
Absolutely. And, having a young child, I became the mom to a lot of his friends as well. And I think that's just natural in a community where you have children that hang out a lot. So yes, I gave birth to him, but I have this extension of children that have come through him. And I've got 6 godchildren that I'm blessed to have, and tons of nieces and nephews as well. And I remember, I'll never forget, there was a young lady, she was in trouble. And he said, Mom, he came to me and he said, Mom, I don't know what to do to help her. And we were able to get her the help that she needed in the situation that she was in. And I think it's so important that when we have children, we don't just think about the impact that we're making on them, but the impact that they make on other people within their own circle of friends and circle of influence. And so I always tell people that you may only have one child or you may have more than one child, but it's a ripple effect because you're affecting the lives of everybody that they come in contact with as well.
Absolutely, for sure. So, Sana, I want to really point to the fact that you talked about naysayers, I'm sorry. And one of our guest speakers referred to this being people who are against what we want. They're dream killers, right? People who want to squash our dreams, people who want to limit us, put us in a box while we're trying to break the mold and break the glass ceiling and all of that. And I remember that in the beginning of my life, or my adult life, how much of what I wanted to do was to impress other people for some reason. You know, you're taught all of the things that you need to do. And in the beginning, you want to impress your parents. You want to be an example for family members and all of those things. But eventually it gets personal, doesn't it? And we have to really just find all of the motivation and inspiration inside to unlock our passion and our dream. And to think of you doing this for over 10 years really speaks a lot to your testimony, actually. And it's just something that we have to get comfortable in knowing that it is not always going to be comfortable. It's not always going to go our way. I often say regarding family members who may be in our corner or not, I always say they'll be back.
Right.
They will, right?
Right.
It's not for everyone to always understand our dreams and our visions or our why. It is for us to dig really deep down inside and do this work. And it requires work. And I just want to commend you for everything that you have put into making the things possible in your life. And I just thought that maybe you could share a little bit more about your why. What was it that really kept you getting up in the morning? And I know that God was in the center of it, but there still has to be something inside of you that keeps you going and actually has you to continue to think on the things that you want, your destiny. And another thing about unlocking our destiny, and I'll let you answer my question, is that one thing is you arrive to one destiny, right? Yep. But we have many destinies, right? Your destiny is not exactly a destination, right?
Right.
There's just so many things that you can do in this life. And oftentimes our naysayers also, they want to limit us and stop us or hinder us at the first great thing. Like, well, don't you, I remember too, that I had to entertain the conversation. Well, don't you have it all? Everything looks good to me. What else do you need? So I want you to speak a little bit to some of my points.
So absolutely. Let me first start with the naysayers. So I remember there was a point while I was in the midst of kind of healing, and the Lord was preparing me to start sharing my story. And there were people that were closest to me that were the main ones trying to convince me not to share, not to tell. And I remember in particular, this one pastor said to me, he said, you got to worry about the people. The people are not always ready to hear the truth. And I looked at him, and I have now coined this phrase by accident. But I looked at him and I said, who the people? Who are the people? Because The people don't have a heaven to put me in or a hell. They don't control my destiny, my purpose, my pocket, or anything else. So who are the people that you are referring to that I must pretend that I am not who I'm supposed to be for their comfort? And so I think a lot of us tend to shrink ourselves, and we tend to dream small to comfort other people. And so that's the first thing I want to say, is to stop shrinking yourself. Stop shrinking your destiny, because God has a huge destiny for his people. Huge. He calls us royal priesthood. Like we are loved. We are his daughters and his sons. Like he wants the very best for us. It's us that shrinks ourselves from man. So that's the first thing. The second part of your question was, other than God being at the center, what else is it that I wake up for, to keep doing the work that I do? And so as I went through this healing process, one of the big things that the Lord kept pressing upon my heart was forgiveness. And my birth mother passed away in 2002 without me having the opportunity to have had a conversation with her, to have, heard her side of the story. She literally got out of jail, and 2 weeks after her release, she was dead. And in that 2-week period, I didn't have the opportunity to talk to her. And so she died. And the first time I saw her was in the casket. And for a very long time, I was angry with her because I felt like I was entitled to that anger. This is the woman who has caused me so much pain. If she would have got herself together, I wouldn't have had to go through this. I wouldn't have been in foster care. I wouldn't have had an STD. I wouldn't have, this, that, and the third. All of my shoulda, coulda, wouldas was based on her. Why didn't you do? And the Lord had to really deal with me on my forgiveness. And so I had to learn to forgive her after her death. I had to learn to forgive her when she couldn't apologize to me. And when I was finally able to forgive her, and it was a long journey, it was not easy. It was a long journey. But when I finally changed my perspective and I was able to forgive her, I realized that she was literally just the vessel that the Lord used to bring me into this earth, right? There is so much of her life that she was never meant to get together. She was never meant to be the Cosby mom. She was never meant to give me this house and picket fence and a dog. That was not her purpose. Her purpose was to get me here, and she served her purpose. And so when she got me here and she served her purpose, I began to realize, you know what? I'm the harvest. I'm the harvest of the sacrifices that she sowed into this earth. And so I wake up every day now saying her sacrifice will not be in vain. I will rewrite the story of our family. My mother, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother all had a drug addiction, and they sold their daughters for drugs. It's a generational curse. I realized that for me, number one, the curse was going to stop. I have a daughter myself. She will not know that story. I get the opportunity to rewrite the legacy. I get the opportunity to do it from scratch. And so I wake up every day saying, I'm creating new legacy. New legacy for my daughter, new legacy for my son. The generational curse stopped with me. And so that is what keeps me going every morning. I wake up looking for opportunities to serve, opportunities to add to the story, add to the pages of this story, and to please the Lord. And so that's what does it for me every single day. I can literally be on Zoom calls, coaching sessions, summits, and everything else from sun up to sundown. But at the end of the day, I say, Lord, did I please you today? Did I please you? Did I honor my mother's sacrifice on today? And so that is what I encourage even children to do, youth to do. Oftentimes you're looking at your parents and you're wishing you had a different set of parents, that you had a different mom because you were harmed and you were hurt. But you get to choose the perspective that you have every day. You get to choose the life and the path that you get to walk. And it starts with forgiveness. So I challenge the youth to forgive. Learn to forgive the mistakes of your parents so that you can live a free life.
Sana, The Lord is dealing with me while you talk. And I am so blessed to have you to call my friend, and I will be talking to you after this session.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So many parents need to hear your words. So many young people need to hear your words, because oftentimes young people will sabotage their own futures.
Yes.
Because they're in the middle of a very unhappy circumstance. We don't choose our parents.
Right.
We don't choose our environment. We don't choose those things. We are all born into this world with the family who God blessed us with. And what is so incredible about your story is that you have found a blessing in a situation that many people could not even imagine being placed in. And so it is just wonderful to have you in my networks. I'm going to be a little stingy and a little selfish. Y'all got to wait till I talk to Sana, and then you can talk to her.
Can I get second in line behind you then?
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And parents, and I say to the parents, forgive yourself.
Yes.
Forgive yourself, because, you know, a lot of us have made mistakes because we have parented out of just what we saw, right? And if we live and come from trauma, that's how we parent. That's how we parent. And I literally had this conversation with my son last night. He's 18 years old. And I had this because every couple weeks I have to kind of get in there and I have to be accountable for my mistakes. And so I do that by having these uncomfortable conversations with my son that humbles me. And I ask the difficult questions, you know, did I cause you trauma? And what does that look like? And last night he said to me, he said, you know, Ma, you really have babied me. And I need you to stop babying me. And I said, well, what does that look like? Because your version of babying you to me is just you not being mature. And so I feel like I can't trust you. Right. And so he said, no, Ma, but you got to let me make mistakes. You got to let me make mistakes. And he said, I know a lot of the things you did it to protect me, but you got to let me go now. And we sometimes, we baby our kids because we don't want to let them go because we're still trying to right our wrongs. We know what we did wrong, right? And we're trying to right them. And they're saying, you got to let me go. I forgive you. You got to forgive you. And so that's what I encourage a lot of parents to forgive yourself and be able to let go. I put on my Facebook last night, pray for us moms who are parenting our kids out of the lens of our trauma. Pray for us because we're not okay. We're not okay in these streets. We're trying to figure this thing out. And it is very tough, especially when you're raising young Black men in 2021. It is hard. And you feel like if they step out that street and something happens, it's my fault. But you got to give them back to the Lord. And that was my prayer this morning when I got on my knees. God, show me how to not just say I'm giving him back to you, but really let him go and give him back to you.
Ooh. I think it's so important that when you, and I agree with you so much about letting them go. I hear so much of, oh, as soon as they're 18, they're out of the house. There are some children that are not ready yet to go and be on their own at 18. And there are some, and it has nothing to do sometimes with their maturity or or even as a reflection of your parenting. Right. It's sometimes the life experiences that they've had. You know, there was so many times that my son, I would, have like life lessons is what I would call them of, if you're at the store and I give you $20, what are you going to do with it? Because if you don't have money management as a teen with $20, how are you going to manage a paycheck and an apartment and utility bills? And we do the best we can with what we have. And sometimes we need someone to come up to us and say, you know what, you got to let go a little bit, or you got to bring them back some because you're just letting them go out there and just go experience life in a way that they don't have direction. They're not anchored to anything. So I think that, it could go both ways. Right. And especially if you're doing it from a place of trauma or trying to prevent them from trauma that you hold on to them so tight that the minute they get out to the world, they just go like
crazy.
They go crazy. They go to the limits of everything because they've never learned. They didn't know what limits. They had too many limits that they just throw limits out the window and just go at it.
Right. And I will tell you, and I know there's got to be some parents that's going to identify when I say this. The game, them Xboxes,
the video game. Yeah.
Listen, them games is the enemy because they are keeping our kids in a false reality. And I'm telling you, my son, sometimes I say, oh God, I'm so thankful for the game because he could be on the streets. He could be selling drugs. But no, he in his room after work on that game. But at the same time, it's not teaching him life lessons of how to be a man. And I always say to him, I'm raising somebody's husband. I need you to get this together. I don't need your wife coming back to me saying, what did you do, Miss Sana? He don't know how to cook, clean, or work. So I need you to get up off of that game. The game is the devil. I'm telling y'all, if you have younger kids, stop it now. I know it allows us to have some freedom and some peace and quiet, but that game is getting our young men in trouble because they don't know how to live a real life.
So on that note, I work in the field of technology, and I'll tell you, I may seem very strict to some parents because I use all the tools in my toolbox to limit time on devices, as well as have a cutoff time in the nighttime. We shut everything off at 8 o'clock. You can't turn on a TV or get on your phone, sneak to it, nothing.
Ooh,
all of it is shut down.
Teach us how to do it.
If anyone wants to know my secrets, I am happy to work with you so that you can enforce these policies within your household.
Yes.
Because it's really difficult to pull our children away. Another thing that I have implemented in my house, they will get 2 or 3 hours on their device, depending on if it's a weekday or a weekend. When that time is up, that time is up. I even calculated the fact that you have 3 devices. You have a tablet, you have a phone, you have a computer. So you might want to figure out how you're going to spend your time. And my children have learned that they have to be resourceful and smart about what they choose to do. Now, I'm not claiming to be perfect. Obviously, I fall into the same issues that many of us parents fall into, and it's a trap. You have things that you need to get done in your adult life, and you just need the kids to be off somewhere out of your way.
Oh, I think we lost you, Precious.
I think so. But no, to piggyback until she can come back in. I agree. I think that, I still work in education, and I see, and I work in higher education now, but what I see is that children who become adults who spent so much time in the reality of social media, video games, and whatnot, lack communication skills.
Right.
They don't know how to have a conversation and it not be with their thumbs.
Right.
And we lose that connection. When the pandemic is over and it's safe, I want to bring back Sunday dinners. My son lives on his own now, but I want him to say, you know what? Okay, the first Sunday of every month, I'm going to be at my mom's house for dinner. Right. And if that means that my community children, the children that I have kind of adopted without going through the legal process, need a place to come so that we can have those conversations and check in. I think it's so important to have that sense of community that's beyond just Instagram or Facebook or even now the new, Clubhouse.
Right.
We're having great conversations on Clubhouse and other forms of social media. Let's start bringing that back when it's safe, of course, into our real lives so that we can be reconnected to people. And I'm thankful that in this pandemic, I have been able to connect with people, from all over the country.
Right.
Through the work that I'm doing and through, personal relationships and connections with other people. You and I would have never met if we both had this live event. Maybe one of us couldn't have traveled
Right.
for the event, and now that we're forever connected, and the fact that we can say we were teen moms, and we can show others that just because you're a teen mom, that's a title,
right,
not a destination.
Exactly.
And it's not what TV shows you. We don't look like the characters on TV that are running around talking about I'm a teen mom.
Right.
We didn't have cameras following us.
Exactly.
Our children.
Exactly.
And I think it's so important to keep it real when people look at that, to say that's TV. That's not always real life. I didn't have a camera crew following me
exactly
every step of the way to decide these things or make it look good for TV.
Right. And create a brand and all of that. Right.
Right. And getting a paycheck for being a single parent.
Right.
And I think it's so, and I've had conversations with young girls that think that being a teen mom is this thing that they see on TV. And I had to tell them that it's nothing like that. You don't have a camera crew following you. You don't get every little bit of your child's life recorded that you can go back and play it back to see what you did right or what you did wrong, or you don't get to redo, and I think it's important for people to stay connected in that realm. Oh, I think we're getting Precious back. Hey, friend, welcome back. We kept it going for you while you were away for a minute.
We can't hear you.
Yes, I know. We'll have to show that on the bloopers later. All right, guys. This is what happens when you do not charge your laptop before the live. Thank you so much
to all of us.
Thank you so much. So I was in the middle of talking about how we tend to need to do things, constructive things as adults in our household.
Right.
And I understand it's a trap that we may want to give our children that time. But one of the things that I've been implementing in my household is really including my children in some of the normal activities around the house, especially since they're getting older. They've matured during the pandemic.
Right.
Before the pandemic, I didn't have a teenager. I have a teenager now.
Right.
My daughter, who's turned 9, let's not talk about what she's going through at her age. But, I'm incorporating them, helping cook dinner, cook lunch, teaching them. We do have to take the time to teach.
Right.
We are our children's teachers.
Right.
Ways, so not just academically, but just what the lessons that we can teach them around the house. And there's just a number of projects that I've pulled my children into. And what I did learn is that they are just so proud of being asked. And yes, we go through the complication of learning because everybody's not patient in the learning process. So I'll own that and be honest about that. But whenever we are all able to see the things that we can accomplish together, then that's where the joy and appreciation comes in.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. That's good. We need them tips though. We need those tips so we can implement them ASAP.
Absolutely. I know that, like, my son, I got to a point where I told him, I'm not doing your laundry anymore.
Yes.
If you don't have clean socks for school, I guess you're going to school with no socks on, dirty socks. I don't know. Because when they get to a certain point, you realize you're not raising children, you're developing young adults.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
And if we let them go out into the world with no skills, guess what they become? Grown adults living in your spare bedroom that have no exit plan.
Exactly.
Now, I don't want to sign up for that.
No,
you don't
I
have
don't think and I always
no
told my son, right. And I love my son dearly, and I feel like I've equipped him well for life. And when he moved out, I said, look, I love you. If for whatever reason life gets hard and you need to come home, you can come home.
Right.
You cannot stay forever.
Right.
But you can come home, and when you come home, we're going to sit down and come up with a plan of how you go back out into the world and be better the second go around. Maybe and he's doing really well. He's been on his own for a little over a year now.
That's
and
good.
somebody, like I had a mom said, oh, my son's 27 and still hasn't moved out because you haven't made them. You've made it too comfortable for them to come home at 27 and just be at home. Maybe they needed to be doing laundry.
I do want to ask you ladies, where do you see your children whenever they get out of your house? What do you imagine? And of course, this is our imagination because they are developing on their own, and there may be things within them that we don't even see at this age and stage of their lives. But what are your dreams and goals for your children? I can start.
I think dreams and goals is just to be a productive, healthy, kind individual, and whatever he chooses to pursue, pursue it well and pursue it with all the passion in his heart. So I don't have necessarily goals for him. I just have an idea of whatever he wants to do and whatever he's, doing is making him happy. And I hope I'm doing well. I hear that I'm doing well from other people. And I still talk to my son on a regular basis. He still lives nearby. He lives about 10 minutes from me. And so we still talk, regularly. And he used to call me up and, Mom, can you make me my favorite dish? And sometimes I make it just as an excuse of a reminder that I'm still here for you.
Right. That's good. For me, I have a whole plan for what I think he should be doing.
Yes.
and that's, that's the control girl in me. But the other part of it is that I can see I can see the great in him.
Yeah.
And sometimes as mothers, I think we have to see it for them so that until they can begin to see it. And so for me, I see him working in the school system, specifically with children who have behavioral issues or some type of ADHD or those type of issues, and just living on his own with a nice girlfriend. He's been dating this girl for 2 years. I see them, together for 2 years. I see him not making me a grandmother for a long time. And and I see him, being all the things that Nicola said for her son, and also helping me and his father out with our daughter, which is his sister, who's some years behind him. So I see him being a strong male role in her life, in addition to, their dad. So that's how I see him. And I see him in that way because my husband and I have run a summer camp for 12 years. And so when he was old enough to work, he started working at the summer camp. And I saw the way he has such patience and grace with kids who have disabilities. And so he has not realized that gift, but I've seen it. And so I pray that I'm able to cultivate that gift and help him to really grow into it, because I believe that he will get great joy in that when he grows up. Grows up.
Wonderful. I think it's so important to have a vision for our children as we are parenting. I know that's how my parents raised us, and they weren't far off the mark with what they wanted us to do, but we did have to grow into our own. And I talked a little bit about that earlier as well. But I don't want to hinder parents from having the grandiose vision and imparting what you see in your children and realizing their greatest strengths that you can build upon, because that is our role as parenting, or as parents in their lives. So with my son, he is just such a vocal person, and we have lately heard his viewpoints on things while he's in school, and certain conversations or topics come up. We've heard him debate. We've heard him also raise his hand to be one of the people that gives the news to his class. in the morning, and we learned that he had the ability to put together short news videos on his own. Really impressed us because we were a little nervous about what might come out of his mouth. He in fact, whenever he posed this idea, he said his news would be called Trust AJ. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I don't know where this is going to go because, with our boys, their sense of humor might not be our sense of humor.
Right.
But he really impressed us. So I can see him moving into communications if that's what he wants to do. But he really wants to be a gamer. So he's very logical as well. And I just see a lot in his future. He's also great with numbers, which I'm really excited about. So we talked about the stock market some right now regarding the GameStop information that we know about right now. So I'm super excited for him and what the future may hold. He's 13, so we have a ways to go and a lot of things that could develop in high school as well as we start to look at high schools for him. Concerning my daughter, who is much younger and still finding her way, I call her my born leader. In fact, she's a December baby. And if you know anything about December babies, they just really have sort of this intuition in life where it is almost like they have been here before. And she just really has a personality where she's sure, she's assertive, much like her mother. Honestly, she is my mini me, but some areas where I'm really impressed about her is her being an artist. And I think that means she's very creative. So I'm helping her explore her creativity in life. And I'm really excited for what that could bring for her. And there are some things that I could direct her into wanting to do, but I'm honestly just watching her like a flower, watching her blossom into this beauty that I could not imagine. So I'm really excited to be able to be a part of my children's lives in that way. And the times are so different though, where I remember growing up for my parents, it was almost like this idea that the world would always be the same. Certainly we know today that the world is ever changing. So as parents, I want to encourage those who are listening right now to be open to the possibilities that never existed in your younger years, and the possibility. I mean, come on, we have Kamala Harris, who's the VP now. Can you imagine? Our children has watched Barack Obama become president, Kamala Harris become VP, so many others that I could name that look like us at this point. And their world and what they see for themselves can be very different than what we could have ever imagined in our lifetime. So despite all of the racial disparities and things going on in our communities, I remain really hopeful for what it is that my children have in their futures. And I sure hope that you do too, and that you're taking the time to assess whatever it is within your child that seems so little, right? My daughter's creative. Well, guess what? She could be like Amanda Gorman, right? Like, thinking about my son and how he is. He could be the next Wes Moore, right? So there's just so much inside of our children that we don't even know, but we're just blessed to be in a position in their lives to uplift and motivate them. And not every parent is that way. So we got to really embrace the fact that we have this opportunity to make a difference and show up in our children's lives in a way that maybe, yes, we might not have been afforded it, but Sana already talked to us about our forgiveness, y'all. I mean, she already talked to us about it. It's so important that we forgive those who raised us, who grew up in a different era, right? Mm-hmm. They grew up in a different era where, unfortunately, children were to be seen and not heard, right? Well, I'm here to unlock the voice of our young people. I want to hear from our young people. I want to elevate them. I want to help them get to where they want to be sooner rather than later. So if your child wants to be a kidpreneur, bring them to me. I want to work with them. If your child feels like they are ready to venture off and join YouTube and start their channel, bring them to me. I'll coach them so they can do that. That's the kind of vision that I have for young people, why I work with them, and why I don't place limit on the lives of who they are, because you never know. Like I said, you might have an Amanda Gorman on your hands. They hit 21 and it's wow. Anything else that you ladies want to share before we wrap up today?
I thank you so much for putting on this summit and pouring into the lives of not only parents, but children, and then allowing those of us who would not normally be able to connect. I mean, I have a new friend in Sana. I'm going to be calling her up right after you get off the phone with her. So I thank you so much for putting this summit together and then putting together the youth summit that's going to be starting here in a few weeks. That's going to really pour into our youth. So thank you so much for what you do in bringing people together and changing the lives of parents and children and youth.
Absolutely. And thank you, because you're also doing incredible work in your community, and we share about your nonprofits as well. What we'll also do is continue to leave the Facebook page open so that when you have things that our parents can take advantage of, that they can just tune into more that you have to offer.
Absolutely.
Sana, did you have anything that you wanted to say before we close out?
I'm going to stop talking, but I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity. This really was amazing. Just being able to connect, gaining 2 new friends and the 2 of you. And just, I'm really looking forward to what comes next with Shield Mentor Program and, the things you're doing. I know myself and probably Nicola are even looking at you as to how you navigate this new normal in the pandemic as a nonprofit leader. And so we are just really honored and excited to be a part and to support you and push you as you move forward and really change in the trajectory of so many of our youth and families.
Absolutely.
I certainly appreciate it. We're coming up on our final deadline for any families who do want to join our program for the 2021 Shield Saturday Leadership Academy. We are able to serve families anywhere, so you do not have to be local to Greensboro, North Carolina in order to enroll your child in the program. Even better, we are able to offer this at $15 for all of our families. Our goal is to reach 45 young people. We have about 25 right now, so we're still on the home stretch of wanting to reach that goal. However, guess what? The game will go on because your destiny is not delayed. And I certainly hope that you choose to take part in what we're getting ready to do, because it's not just myself, but a number of college students who have really spent a lot of time working on developing our curriculum so that we can implement it on an online format. Lots of volunteer hours has gone into making it possible, and we're super excited to invite you to the Shield online community. So what I'll do here is I'm going to play a brief commercial about just that, and then we're going to close out.
You've invested tons of time into your child, but you don't have to do it alone. Does your 4th through 12th grade child need an outlet to focus on how to reach their highest potential in school, in life, and beyond? Here at the Shield Mentor Program, our college and professional mentors are waiting to serve you through our Shield online community, a place for parents and youth with the same interests to connect in a fun and safe virtual environment. From helpful parenting information to social and emotional support for your child and everything in between, join us to connect with others who live near and far in a much-needed space to get the help your child needs for their future success through our mentorship and leadership programs. It's never been easier for you to connect your child with the resources they need. Join us today at www.shieldmentor.org to connect with like-minded parents looking to see their child succeed.
Thanks again, Sana and Nicola. I really appreciate you spending time with us today. Parents, I'm going to close out as I always do. Remember that you are your child's best advocate. Thank you so much for joining us.